Well, we are live, so everyone's catching up on our video game conversation. And I think Erika, you're proving already that you're not one of our normal guests. Just the fact that you're a woman is a point in case of.
And I'm only a guest host today. This is not my show, so the fact that Erika is the first woman to ever appear on DealerRefresh, I'm psyched she's here. But shame on you guys. Why'd it take this long, huh?
Yeah, there's something, and Erika, maybe you can tell us what's wrong with us. But Jeff and I have been asking various women. We just keep getting rejected.
Are you letting Jeff ask?
And we're both married, so I mean, it's something was right there. We got a yes at some point. We just can't get a yes on Refresh Friday.
Maybe it's the asking. It's like, hey, you want to be on a video with us? Or is it like, hey, you want to join us for some conversation?
Yeah, do we need to buy y'all a drink first or something?
a little more suspicious, little more suspicious. But no, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to kind of talk some shop and see what other people have to have questions for. So yeah, pretty excited, and thank you. Yeah, pretty cool.
We're excited to have you. So you'll say Erika is brave, and she's very brave to be on here with you and me, Steve.
Indeed, yeah. The worst thing that Kershner would do if he was here is he'll go off on one of those 10-minute tangents about nothing. And so
he never does
harmless. Harmless. What's that?
He never does that.
No. And by the way, those of you watching, it's okay to attack people who are not here. They have every opportunity to be here, but he wanted to go on vacation. So there you go.
Yeah, he's at the hairstylist right now. So, we love you, Jeff. So we wanted to say thanks for watching, everyone. And Steve, I think you wanted to talk about a charity that you're championing right now.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm not championing it. But I am. Let me share my screen here. Sorry, folks. This is some behind the scenes stuff. I got 8 screens going here. All right. Share that, baby. Maybe. Tell me, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Good, because it disappeared off of where I'm at.
Well, we've got some Drive for a Cure.
That's right. Oh, great. So most everybody in automotive knows Paul Jimenez. His son, Paulie, passed away from cancer in 2016, January 2016. And they created, really kind of at Paulie's insistence, this Paulie Strong foundation and I know I'm not doing it justice, but folks, go to paulystrong.org and look up the events, because September is Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. And most people don't know this, but only about 4% of cancer research funds that are collected ever go to try to stop childhood cancers. And that's just not enough. 4% just doesn't do it. So organizations like Pauly Strong do a great job. I think they've raised almost $600,000 for cancer research since it's been founded. Go to paulystrong.org, because in September they have their golf outing. You can see that, Drive for a Cure. If you cannot attend that, there are still ways to participate. They have a silent auction, but just below Drive for a Cure, let me scroll down. Well, there it is, the Pauly Strong Foundation 2018 helicopter golf drop. You can buy golf balls, and those are going to be dropped from a helicopter at the start of the Drive for a Cure. And the person closest to the hole, or if your ball goes in the hole, you're going to win. It's like a 50-50 raffle. You're going to win, I don't know, 20 grand, 200,000, something like that. Anyway, go to paulystrong.org and support a great organization.
And you're getting a good shout out from Ryan Leslie.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. So Ryan is a big supporter
as
well. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share here. So we're back to you.
Right.
Ryan,
I'm a little afraid that you know how to share your screen now.
I didn't realize it. I didn't need permission. I could just steal it. So now you don't want me on again. I'm going to tell you that, because I'm going to plan ahead. But Ryan's a great guy, and his son passed away from childhood cancer as well. And Ryan and Paul have just been tremendous. I think I have 3 boys, and I don't know how I would react, and I hope that I would do what they're doing, which is to continue to fight for everybody else's kid. So anyway, that's Drive for a Cure, polystrong.org. Go there, spend some money, and let's stop childhood cancer.
And so Erica and I were talking yesterday. We were trying to figure out where we knew each other from before. We reminisced on a number of digital dealers, which is right around the corner.
Yes.
And I bring that up somewhat selfishly because we have some tickets to give away.
Yay! Tickets to what? Aerosmith?
Yeah. The Roscoe version called Digital Dealer.
Roscoe, that's a throwback.
Yeah. I'm trying to think how many shows we've had where we haven't mentioned Roscoe.
He's not been involved with Digital Dealer in since probably DD15 or something.
Right.
This one
since he banned
25.
Jeff and me.
The yellow Segway, when he was riding around with the yellow Segway.
Yep. Well, we do have some Digital Dealer tickets that we can give away to anyone who is liking the show right now or sharing it.
Ooh, does that include me?
No.
No. You get self-promotion spots.
Oh, do I?
Like that.
All right.
I've got mine right here.
Yeah, it's holding up a light.
It's holding a light right now, so I can't pull it up. But Digital Dealer, share and like this thing that we are doing right now called Refresh Friday. So, Eric and I will not bore you with the story we tried to come up with yesterday for how we might have met at Digital Dealer, but maybe didn't. We don't know. It would have been back in 2010.
Yeah, 2010, 2011-ish. I think it was like the first Digital Dealer I've ever attended. So I was actually going on, just kind of like a discovery mission. I wasn't actually working, I don't think, for any kind of automotive. I started out working with dealer specialties. So it was kind of, I wanted to get more into the automotive industry. So, but gosh, I've been to maybe 5 or 6 different digital dealers and NADAs. And yeah, it's been a long time.
Well, you're speaking at this one, aren't you?
I am. I'm speaking this digital dealer in October, Vegas. Come on out. But it's going to be about how to build the perfect landing page and making sure they're mobily optimized for your customers. So, which is a huge topic right now. At least I think it's a huge topic. Everybody should be working on mobile.
Well, I think we're going to be talking about some of that today.
Yes.
Let's segue into that.
All righty.
So, one of the things I would like to get out of today, and we don't have to jump into it just yet, but if people hang around for a while, we probably will get there, which is how to review your mobile site.
Mm-hmm.
But before we go there, you were asking a question, and do you think dealers realize there are different search results?
Yes. So yesterday in multiple conversations I've had with dealers, we go through the results and the rankings and where they're populating on search. And I kind of throw out, I'm like, yeah, on your desktop, you're ranking at this position for this keyword. But on mobile, you're about 2 spots higher. And they kind of looked at me a little confused and they go, what do you mean I'm 2 spots higher? And I go, well, there's different results for desktop version versus mobile version. And that can all depend on how well the page or the site is laid out for mobile. Is it optimized? Is it not? Is it, a lot of script being loaded before? Is it too slow? Is one of the main reasons you might not be mobily optimized. So that was something that's kind of come up in multiple conversations with a lot of my clients, is just that realization that, they have 2 different results.
So you should care about how your mobile site performs then.
Well, yeah, if you look at, and I challenge any dealer to look at their analytics and just see what is the percentage of desktop, tablet, and mobile. 90% of the time you will see mobile is becoming your number 1 source of traffic. So if you're not optimizing for mobile, you're missing out on a huge boat of people. We were looking a couple of weeks ago just at the bounce rate on mobile. The bounce rate for sites that are underperforming on mobile devices is huge.
So what is it? average dealer watching today and had no idea that their results were different in search and mobile versus desktop. They're looking at their Google Analytics. They don't know if it's good or bad. What should they do? How should they approach their website provider to make sure they're optimized for mobile? Is there any questions they should be asking?
Well, yeah, I mean, especially depending on the mobile, the website itself. Is it adaptive versus responsive? One of the biggest topics even a couple of years ago was, should we go with more of an adaptive or a responsive website? And that's going to be a huge factor. I know there's a few websites still circulating out there that are adaptive, but making sure your website is adaptive is number one. Responsive is number one. And then making sure that your page that you've built, if it's a content page, inventory, anything, that it is being actually rendered responsive, having videos that pop up out of size, having buttons that, if you end up shrinking your website down, you can do this on desktop. It's really cool. Take your screen, shrink it down to the size of your mobile phone and see what actually kind of shoots out the side and what's actually not, shrinking down to an appropriate mobile size. The hard part is a lot of the buttons and images and even text can be really thrown out of proportion. And like it's one way to tell if your mobile page is rendering correctly.
Well, and you might have said this, if you're shrinking your page down on your desktop, that's only in a responsive solution, whereas there are other things like adaptive and seamless that you can't do that with.
Right.
You actually have to pull your phone up and do some searches with that and look at it that way. Which, how many dealers are actually searching out their name or their brand on their mobile phone just to check up on things? Or are they typically doing it on their desktop?
I would say about maybe 80-90% of them are, on their desktop. You're sitting behind you're in your office, you're looking at your reports, you go, okay, I wonder what I'm showing for this. A lot of the times they're also checking for that for your PPC campaigns. They're checking in on that as well. So definitely pull up and then just kind of look at your experience as you go through your website. And this is something we can touch on a little bit later. Make sure the user experience is good too, even from going to the homepage. How many calls to actions do you have for directions and chat, and is all of that taking up, you have this much screen. How much is that taking up with, the buttons at the bottom? One of the biggest issues I've seen is, click to chat is taking over the left side of the screen where you can't filter inventory. You have to kind of scroll around this chat in order to kind of go just to inventory. So those are some just big user interface issues that I've seen that are just such a simple fix. So simple to, just move that over.
Well, chat plugins never get in the way.
And after you've closed them 8 times, in one session, they don't come back a 9th or 10th or 12th or 30th, right?
PTSD,
Yeah, every page load, there's a new chat to close. That's a great experience. I do love that.
So so a dealer brings in their website provider. They're talking to them on the phone because they don't like what they see on their mobile device. They don't like how it's rendering. Can they hold a gun to the website provider's head? Do they need to change providers? I mean, what are some of the, load their lips with a few words that they can use that makes them sound smarter to their website provider and will make their website provider either perform or, allow them out of their agreement.
I'm going to cancel if you don't fix this.
There you go. I like that one.
That one worked really well where I used to work.
I was going to say, yeah, so you used it a lot at Checkered Flag, and then that's what got you your gig at Dealer?
Yeah, that's right. Checkered Flag's going to cancel if you don't hire me, Dealer.
Yeah. So as you know, there's a lot of manufacturers where, you're kind of stuck with what you have. You have very limited options, but really kind of holding your vendor website accountable for something like, making sure, hey, I want to make sure that my navigation is easy to read and easy to click. Some of those features can be really kind of simple to kind of choose and which ones are going to show up on mobile. Really sitting down with them and saying, let's go through the analytics and see what pages are actually being clicked versus ones that are not. Let's see if we can just pull those out of the navigation that are not just being utilized. And it just comes down to the basic, does this make sense to have on a mobile device? Click to chat and text in the same view. Which one is probably going to be utilized a little bit more? And that can be on a case by case. In certain areas, we found that more people will use a chat versus a texting feature, mainly because they don't want to give out their phone number just yet to then, text back and forth with a dealership. So we're seeing more and more people, starting to get more comfortable with texting dealerships, but it seems like it's a little bit of a barrier to entry for that.
So do you think that there's more than, just, well, let me rephrase this. So you've mentioned there's chat, and then there's text to chat. And of course, we've got, get e-price and get a credit app, check my trade-in value,
Get directions.
check availability, all these differing calls to action. Do you think that the dealers who have so many different calls to action are really thinking through what the consumer is trying to achieve?
I think of it kind of like, you guys remember Blockbuster? Going into the Blockbuster store, if you brought your kids in, you'd go in, and of course, with us and my family, we're a family of three kids, and we'd all get in there, and inevitably my sister would want to have the one video that she's seen 1,000 times, and then I'd want like 2 or 3 of the new ones, and my brother would want something else, and by the end of it, we spent an hour trying to figure out what it is we want. It's kind of like having the conundrum of too many options. We don't know what to get, and we don't know where to click because there's too many things, too many calls to action getting in the way. So making it kind of simple. There's too many things in the navigation. Where do I need to click? Where do I need to go? I kind of like when it comes to websites and calls to action, simple, easy to understand, Apple kind of version where it's a very clean outline. You have your navigation is very simple and clean, new, used, service, finance, and then of course like the about us and those kinds of pages. And then as it comes to calls to actions, don't try to trick people. They're intelligent. They know, hey, I want to know more about this vehicle. Here's a good way to just click to find out more about the vehicle. Value my trade. Making the calls to actions very clear, cut, concise.
And actually do the calls to action once somebody's gone through with it. So,
right.
For instance, trade-in forms, a lot of the time the dealer doesn't really have a good operation behind that. It's still, here's a range, maybe, if the trade-in form gives them that at all. And now the dealer turns around and says, well, we can't give you a number, you've got to come in.
Yeah.
Or somebody submits a credit app, and then they can't pull the credit until somebody's come in or they've re-entered everything in some other credit pulling system. So there's a lot of disconnects between some of these items.
Mm-hmm. And kind of pulling it to that point, I really do. If you guys ever played on Facebook Marketplace,
A little bit.
So one of the cool things about that is it's a very, very cut and dry. You can add, some content, and then there's really just a call to action of, images, information. Here's, the location of where this vehicle is, somewhere around there. Usually they give like a general location, and then different ways to, communicate or contact the seller or the dealer. And I love it because it's so simple, cut and dry. And we've had a really good success with a lot of our dealers who participate in the marketplace. But that's, again, there's not too many calls to actions. There's very direct. Hey, we have something we're trying to sell. You're looking to buy it. Well, let's just have a conversation. And there's been a lot of really good success with it, especially for used cars. Check that out.
Yeah, word is that Facebook Marketplace is the new Craigslist.
Yeah. Without the massive fee, or
So Drew comments, and I kind of second his comment about people need to be told what to do, and so calls to action are necessary, but I agree with you that we need to limit them. I like to limit them to 3 per page if it's say a BDP or an SRP, no more than that, because then they get caught up in too many choices and they won't make any decision. But at the same time, websites have just 2 goals: attract visitors and convert them into buyers. That's it. Mm-hmm. And if you convert them because they read on your site, they love what they read, and they drop everything and run down and buy a car, well, that's a conversion. If they pick up the phone, if they chat, if they text, if they submit an email lead, those are conversions. And they're not going to do it on their own, right? If you don't have those calls to action, they're going to view your site, they're going to look at great information, and then they're going to go to the next dealer's site until someone tells them what to do.
Right.
Yeah, they definitely need some hand holding. I mean, most people don't even know how to buy a car, so they're
Yeah.
looking for some help. That's why they go to the dealer in the first place. But one of the things that, in all the websites I've seen, not all of them, but a lot of them, it's very obvious that the internet manager is getting paid for leads. And the goal of the internet manager in that instance seems to be a little different than maybe, just get them in and sell them a car. So they end up putting a lot of stuff on the website that is more about helping somebody be identified as an internet customer so they can get paid on that deal. I feel like that's where a lot of the trash on websites come from, is due to a pay plan.
Could be. Obviously, people work their pay plan, right? And that's, you got to set them up pay plans on the way. What's the best way they can cheat me on this pay plan? When I work with dealers and people are paid on, quote unquote internet deals and not on, say, appointments shown, valid appointments shown, you end up seeing that at the end of the month, the internet manager or the BDC manager, he or she spends, full day doing reconciliation. They go through the CRM, they go through the DMS, they say, oh, look, Barbara Jones bought a car. Somebody named Barbara Jones submitted a lead 3 weeks before that. Ergo, that's an internet deal, right? No one ever contacted her. No one ever got her in the store. She came in on her own and bought the car. But boy, that internet manager or that BDC manager, they want credit for that. That's just a bad pay plan. You're right, Alex.
Yeah. Any ideas to how we can change that?
The thing I would say is that dealers can begin to listen to people like Erika and me, and set up pay plans and set up their systems in ways that they don't get stolen from their digital vendors, or they don't get taken advantage of by their internet managers, BDC managers, sales managers, all the above.
So what about a pay plan that's less based on whether or not a customer hit the internet at some point in their life before they came in and bought a car from the store? What if it was a pay plan that also included some fixed operations, so that maybe parts and service can get some love on a website for a change?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think, unless you're a tiny single point dealer in, Lincoln, Nebraska, you really should not have the same person in charge of internet sales who's in charge of digital marketing. They're two different roles. One is a sales manager. An internet sales manager is a sales manager. Their goal is to bring people in and sell them a car. A BDC manager, same thing. Gone are the days where the same person who fixes the phones does your website, right? And we really should have our own digital manager, and that person should be compensated on the performance of the whole store. I like that.
Well, would you ever let your ad agency desk deals?
No, that's a great point. Yep.
Great point. True. Even today, it's funny because we were talking the other day about how it used to be, like you said, your internet manager was, also, doing deals on the showroom floor while managing the website, managing Facebook, trying to work deals that way, and then even making the phone calls. So it kind of comes to the point of, where the incentive lies is, you're going to get paid on doing the deals on the showroom floor versus, checking the reviews and responding to reviews. What's the first thing that's going to go? The thing that's not paying me. So, we need to get those people the support and help they need and make sure that they are compensated correctly to make sure that, the area on the website is actually taken care of appropriately. It's not forgotten.
Yep.
Agreed. JQ on the Zoom chat, folks watching on Facebook don't know you can also watch this on Zoom. You just can't share it like you can on Facebook. JQ writes that, do we need internet managers? We don't have phone managers. And I would say, well, we probably need phone managers. If you've heard any inbound calls being handled in most dealerships, we probably need phone managers as well. So
I'm finally catching up on some of John Quinn's comments here.
Yeah, we don't want to read all of that. I wasn't going to. That's why I was saying JQ. I didn't want to even identify.
Oh, sorry, John Quinn.
His initials are John Quinn.
Outed.
And another good one here is Ryan Leslie. I don't know if you caught this one yet, Steve.
Yeah, I did. Go ahead. Read his comment.
Yeah, it's Ad Click Friday, by the way. You need to promote that in a second.
Oh, we'll get that in a second. Yeah.
Ryan says a new book idea for you, Steve, which is called Assumptive Attribution.
How about it, huh?
Yeah, Ed Brooks would love it.
Ed Brooks would love it. I think I could get a lot of sponsors, and I bet I could do a conference.
Hey.
Its own conference where I'll teach assumptive attribution.
All attribution's assumptive, though. We've read this book.
Yeah.
Indeed. It is Ad Click Friday. Do you mind if I hit that real quick?
As long as you tell them they got to click all the DealerRefresh ads, I'm good.
Yeah, indeed. So let me get back over to the other screen, share my screen again, because I want to show you my tweet so you can see it. I just stole Alex's screen. All right, it's Ad Click Friday. You're all on the web. You're getting all of this great free information like DealerRefresh.com, for example, or the forums. And you know, that stuff costs money. So what I like to do every Friday is when you're on a site where you get free information, whether it's a free video, whether it's news site, whether it's information, whether it's a cooking site, whatever it is, you're gobbling up all this free content, pay the creator of that content. And here's how you do it. You put out the hashtag AdClickFriday, and when you're on sites that are giving you free content, click on a couple of their ads. That's how they make money. It's not much money, but it is how they make money. Let me give you the screen back. So there's my AdClick Friday.
Very nice.
Promotion. I guess it's a promotion, but definitely do it on DealerRefresh as well. That's what keeps Alex in those great wall paintings like he has behind him.
Yeah. It definitely keeps the DealerRefresh hosted and live for everyone, and allows us to come in here and do this show too. So.
Oh, and for those of you who joined late, if you like and share the Facebook post for this session today, Refresh Friday, you'll be entered into a drawing to win tickets to Digital Dealer 25 in Las Vegas in October.
Yep. Thank you, Steve.
I'm here for you.
Yep. Doing a good job.
Thank you.
So, Erika, back at you for a minute. We talked about millennials yesterday.
Yes.
A little bit, and my wife is one, and so I have a lot of love for millennials. I think they get a bad rap. What do you think?
So it's funny because we have a lot of interaction with millennials over the last, they're becoming of the age of being able to purchase vehicles. They're becoming more and more influencers, on internet, on practically everything. I am technically a millennial, and I was actually speaking with a coworker of mine today about the purchasing of, how millennials are interacting with car dealers today. And, it's interesting that, Instagram is definitely becoming one of the most used platforms by millennials. So if that's something, definitely check that out, because I think the average 90% of people on Instagram are under the age of 35. So very kind of cool. But I'm also technically a millennial, and we were talking yesterday about how I'm on the upper end, like the beginning of the millennial trend, and just coming into the workforce, I think we've gotten kind of a bad rap just because we've been considered the upper end of the millennials are, they don't work, they don't know what they're doing. They just want to have, everything for free, and, companies should have beer and wine all the time at work. So it's definitely not that way. And we talked about company culture and how, these massive companies had this idea that, you come in, you punch a time clock, you go do your work, and then you go home. There is some truth to that in being able as a millennial to come in, and put your honest day's work in there. But a lot of it can be surrounded by the idea that there's a purpose for me to be in work. There's a purpose and an understanding of, I'm there to add value, and that, my putting in my effort today is going to help the company and help my customer, move forward. And I think that's the biggest problem with millennials today, is that that companies don't have that understanding that there has to be an overall goal for them to really appreciate and get a millennial to commit to a working environment.
I think that we overthink this millennial thing. I completely agree with you that people want a purpose at work, but you know what? Baby boomers wanted a purpose at work. It just wasn't, always available, and they, towed the line probably more. What's funny is what you said about how, people describe millennials as, wanting just fun, and you didn't say lazy, but, that's how they get described. There's actually a quote from Socrates, back in, BC times, where he talked about that next generation. And if you take his words and you put them in today's vernacular, it sounds just like what you just said. Every generation sort of sees that next generation as the end of humanity, if you will. And I think that we've overblown that as baby boomers and Gen Xers on millennials. I think millennials at some point, when they're in their, you're in your 30s, I assume, since you're an elder millennial. But I think when the elder millennials get into their 50s and the younger millennials are in their late 30s, boy, you're going to be talking about that next generation, those damn kids,
And it's, there's stats all over there about how the iPhone or the phone in general has just kind of changed, and it's really kind of gotten people to be maybe not as intelligent because we rely so heavily on these technologies. But it's also freed up a lot of time and a lot of energy to, we have available data and available information whenever we need it, just at the click of a few buttons. I'm really excited for the next couple of generations because there's opportunities to really help improve life and overall just, I'm going to be very optimistic here for a minute, but, helping to clean our oceans and develop products and things that we haven't yet even tried to imagine. So, as this generation evolves, there's so much potential for good and for, just creating just awesome stuff. I'm just really excited for it. But again, we have to kind of give them the space to kind of be able to get to that point.
Yeah. I hear both of you.
I suppose I just, we created the internet without giving people that space. People find their space, people find what they're good at, and people find what their passions are, and they'll move towards them. The world changes, it happens. But, when we talk about millennials, the fact is that it's that the internet and the phone, the smartphone, and all these applications, they've changed everybody. And so, I don't look anything up in a book anymore unless it's, one of my books. This one was written for millennials. Anyway, but I don't, I use the phone, but in fact, when I was writing Assumptive Selling, I had to take Facebook and LinkedIn and a couple other apps off my phone because I had screen addiction, and that was a problem. And it kept me, actually rewired my brain. But I don't like to overthink any generational thing like that. I do like to say that people will gravitate towards where there's great employment. They'll gravitate towards where they feel loved, and the perks are there and the pay is there and all of those things, whatever it is they're looking for. The thing that the internet's brought us is it's brought us information that lets us know, hey, I don't have to have this crappy job because there's these other jobs over here and they're paying more, or they're maybe not paying more, but there's more free time for me. There's things like that. So, I think these things kind of take care of themselves, and, the great bosses will rise to the top and the crappy ones will not. They just, they won't have good people working for them. Bad companies, will struggle to keep people on board.
It's weird. You talk about capitalism.
And free markets. Isn't that crazy how that stuff works? Amazing.
Maybe a little Darwinism too.
Maybe.
So, millennials are just the youngest generation getting the fingers pointed at them right now. I know some good ones. And Christine makes a little bit of a point that millennials, so far, I'm going to add that in for her, so far, seem to value a work-life balance over wealth. And that's just because they haven't discovered wealth yet.
They haven't discovered wealth, and all they've done is have a life. The work is different, right? I can speak for my 3 millennial sons, 2 of them still in college, 1 of them out of college. Until you're eating a can of beans in a studio apartment that has no air conditioning in Phoenix, Arizona, you don't know, what work-life balance is, right? And so you've got to work to be able to have that life. And I think baby boomers wanted a work-life balance. It was just different. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if you think about to kind of go back the generations, you had the baby boomers who their parents were going through, had been through the depression and everybody about saving and scrimping. And so, the baby boomers had that kind of parenting mentality, whereas now, the baby boomer generation has the ability to give their children more. And so they do. So, this generation of millennials have had a lot more opportunity because, their parents cared enough to allow them to have, a good upbringing, good childhood, play every sport out there, go to every different school event. So it's very different even from the parenting perspective. But, I remember when I graduated college, it was right around the big, the recession. 2 years before and 2 years after I graduated, it was, I don't care what job I get, I just need to get, a job. I'll wash cars, I'll wait tables. Which is essentially what we ended up doing. And it was very much clawing from the bottom to get to the top, to get to that position. And we joke because, Monday was my 4-year anniversary with Dealer Authority. And this is actually kind of
Congrats, by the way.
Yeah.
This is the longest company I've been at in, the years I've been working. And it's a lot of that was because you started out at, maybe not the greatest job. I started out working as a restaurant manager. And that was insane. And I slept only 3 hours a night and knew that was not a work-life balance I wanted. And then slowly moved from opportunity to opportunity, gaining experience as I went along. I wish I didn't have to job hop as much as I did in my early career, because I feel like a lot of people my age did that. And it didn't really hold a sense of, like loyalty to a company. It was kind of like, this is just a stepping stone along the way. So there wasn't a sense of really committing into a company until, the last couple companies I've been at have, really kind of shown that, no, we want you to stay. We want to, help you grow and cultivate your career, not just, do a small thing here and then we'll see what happens.
But that commitment's a two-way street. I advise people all the time not to overcommit to their company, because make no mistake, that company is not committed to them in a lot of cases. And so, I don't ever belittle someone for job hopping, if you will. I don't even like that term necessarily, because it's all about you. You have to do what's best for you, your family, whatever it is. And if that current boss or the current dollars aren't there and there's better dollars to be found at the next job, do it. And so,
you have that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ask some folks that I'm not going to name any names, but we've had this happen in automotive more than a few times with a lot of the vendors. Things are going great. People are making good money. They're selling a lot, and then all of a sudden there's this reduction in force. There's a change in pay plans, and I'm not going to name any names, but Alex knows some of them. And
Shoot, I was laid off from Cox Automotive.
Yeah, so there you go. You just named them. They're the big one that does it. They do it all the time. And so people give their life to that company, and then all of a sudden there's a reduction.
Well, I didn't give my life to it.
But some people did. Back when Autotrader.com first started, some of those folks, and we know a lot of them that were top salespeople. They were making $300,000 a year back then. Some of these folks, and they earned every penny of it. It was a great pay plan for both the company and the salespeople. And then, oops, somebody came along and said they're making too much, and they changed the pay plan and chased all those people away. And it's probably the best thing that happened to a lot of them. A lot of them started their own companies. They did other things. Yeah, there you go. And anyway, so where were we at? We were at commitment with companies. Yeah. No reason to. By the way, new drinking game for Refresh Friday when I'm on is when I do this, right? How about that? When I do that, you have to drink.
Yep, there you go.
Because you'll be drunk by the end of one Refresh Friday.
Just water.
Yep, water.
There you go. Stay hydrated.
although next week we do have Jim Ziegler on, and it might be clear. I promise you it's not going to be water.
So if you do one of these, we know it's not water.
Do you have an Alpha Dog hat that you could wear? You should get one made.
I got a bunch of hats up here on the shelf, but let me see what I can do.
Yeah, get one that's close to Alpha Dog. Get a Mad Dog 2020 hat or something.
I was going for Beta Cat, but
print it out, stick it on, like kind of paste it. A little bit of duct tape. It'll look good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he sent over some photos of the younger Ziegler. we'll put those up. Maybe.
Ooh.
I'm not sure he's got a shirt on in any of them though.
Not
Yeah, but he could pull it off. He doesn't have a Vladimir Putin body. Back in the old days, Jim was quite a bodybuilder, wasn't he?
Yes.
Probably looked. I know he looks better than I do shirtless. So.
Me too. So something. Well, we talk about, we fit on capitalism and we fit on employers and previous employers, and one of the things that really drives me nuts, and at least on the vendor side of the industry. Sorry, dealers, I'm going on the vendor side here for a minute, but are the non-competes. And from a capitalistic perspective, usually all ships rise as there are. Well, what's the saying? All boats rise.
A rising tide raises all ships.
Yes. So you want more competition. Everyone comes up together. Is basically how that works. And from an employment standpoint, the non-compete is a way of killing that, right? It's a way of making it so your employees are sort of indentured servants to your cause, to scare them from leaving or whatnot. And I don't know if anyone else feels this way. I do, but if there's a non-compete in place or there isn't a non-compete in place and employees are leaving, much like you have to fight competition, you also have to fight to be a better organization to keep your employees with you. So sorry about that ramble. I don't know if it just popped in my head. All those little things fired some neurons.
Yeah, unless you're doing something that's requires a high level of technology, that someone could leave and take somewhere else, say AI or autonomous vehicles, something like that.
That's what intellectual property things are for.
Sure, great point. And then the non-compete. The only thing that I would be worried about as an employer is if let's say I'm a vendor and you go create your own company that does exactly what I do and you sell to your own customers. Anything short of that, however, is just a restraint of trade, I think, or something like that. That's out there. And if you're the kind of employer that needs a stronger non-compete than intellectual property and, hey, don't sell our existing customers, then you got bigger problems.
Yeah, it sounds like you're not innovative. If you need something like that, it means you're not innovative.
No, it can also keep you from hiring good people.
Yeah.
You see that coming, and usually that's not something that's, in my experience, has been disclosed within the first round of interviewing. It's usually like right towards the end where they're like, oh yeah, and by the way, you need to sign this. And you look at it and you go,
I had one handed to me that basically said, or I gave it to my lawyer and he turned around and said, Alex, go ahead and sign it. Because this basically says that you cannot even get a job mopping floors in a car dealership in North Korea. So that's about as unenforceable as it gets.
You'd have to fight it. That's the hard part, is 90% of the time people can't afford to fight or continue to fight.
Yeah. So Massachusetts has recently, it looks like they're going to pass some legislation that does away with non-competes, much like California has.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. I love this. But I'm trying to head towards another segue here, but California, I was trying to connect it to the Millennials earlier, but just couldn't make it work. So California, someone brought up in the forums that they are proposing legislation that tells OEMs to back off of the mandated technology choices they give dealers.
The California New Car Dealers Association, and there are great state organizations, don't get me wrong, but I'm speaking at their convention in Maui in October, right after Digital Dealer. And so I got an introduction into them, and I started looking at, what their legislative efforts have been. And, they're probably, in my opinion, second to NADA in helping drive the legislation and that's pro-dealer. And, hats off to them. They're doing a great job, and I'm sure they're the ones behind this current legislation. But they're looking at everything. And if your state organization isn't looking at things like subscriptions, for example, not looking at, things like autonomous fleets and that sort of thing, you may be one of the states where your dealer counts drop pretty severely in, 10 years from now. California seems to be looking ahead on that stuff.
So what does everyone think of OEM mandated programs? Do you want to throw that in the comments? Everyone can get in here on this one.
I'll let Erika start.
Yeah, fire away, Erika.
The idea behind it was originally to help dealers who didn't have a clue of what to do, especially like I'm going to speak from the digital side for a second, but they didn't really know what to do, how to get started, but this was back in 5, 10, 15 years ago, where it was, hey, you just need a website, and dealers were not even sure of how to do that. So setting them up with a vendor is like, great, we'll get you set up, we'll get you started, that's fine. Now it's gotten to the point where it's almost handcuffing dealerships. You have no competitive advantage over one. And, if we're talking about free markets here for a second, what is there a way for me to set myself aside or set myself above if I can't show that I'm a better dealership, that I'm taking this, really seriously? I want to have a good reputation. I'm going to put great content onto my website. But if I'm handcuffed by services and platforms that are just not performing or keeping me from being even able to update my website and, update meta tags and, or meta descriptions and title tags, that's just, kicking you in the stomach. You're putting all this work and effort into something, and you're just barely scraping, the surface of being a fantastic website dealership, you name it. So I think it's a little archaic.
I agree. It's archaic. It's also, it's also wrought with waste and fraud. And there are beneficiaries on the OEM side, people whose bonuses are tied to, enough dealers using this service or that service, and not tied to things like driving market share. So you see OEMs, I did a deep dive into one OEM's co-op program on their pay-per-click and display, and virtually everything that the OEM was paying for was dealers competing with each other, or buying their own names, or buying OEM names and competing with the OEM. And none of the dollars, virtually zero of these dollars, were directed at conquesting the other brands.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
or even a coordinated effort to.
How about it? What's the goal of your digital marketing if you're a Ford dealer? It's to drive business to your dealership versus other Ford dealers. And I get that. And that's what a Ford dealer should do. But Ford shouldn't compensate a Ford dealer for taking share from another Ford dealer. There should be no co-op for that. There should be no mandated partners for that. The only mandated partners, if there are going to be them, are where can we conquest and get more Silverado business into our Ford dealerships? Where can we grab more Ram business? That sort of thing. And it's terrible what it's grown into. I'm convinced that it's such a big monster that it's not going to go away. These people are protecting their jobs, and until Mary Barr or Jim Hackett or one of the CEOs, takes an interest in this, it's going to be a continued waste and fraud affair that pumps up bonuses for OEM execs. There, I said it.
Good job.
Feel better?
Yeah, we get a round of applause. Yeah. So, or you've got lobbying groups like the California Automobile Dealers Association coming in and trying to get legislation passed that puts an end to some of this stuff. But yeah, it's crazy. Do you think that the manufacturers are paying enough attention to realize that they're just taking dollars from themselves all over the place, kind of?
No, it's a big company, and I've worked. I worked at Reynolds. You worked at Cox. Sometimes these big Goliaths, there's nobody cares about the bottom line. And I don't want to say nobody, but there are lots of people who it's like going to Congress, right? Everybody who goes to Congress, they got elected by saying, I'm all for term limits, right? And then they get to Congress and, oh my God, are you crazy? I want to stay here forever. And it's the same thing. You go into a business, a large company, wide-eyed and, ready to go and ready to change the world. And then they just beat you to death. And, you just comply, right? And then once your bonus gets tied to something, well, why would you ever want to change that, right?
Here we are. We're back to pay plans again.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, in the company I was at, it seemed like it was more about protecting your own turf. So your pay plan was tied to the product that you were a part of, and you couldn't get any integrative work done if both products didn't prosper from that integration. It was never like, how do we raise the entire company up? No, it's just, no, put me in my silo and I'll protect my silo.
Yep.
Well, yeah, talk about innovation. You're not, it kind of limits the vendor to really even want to create a better product or develop a better product, because now you have to run it through the OEM's gauntlet of, and we get this, is it going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Can we put this on a mass production for every one of our dealers? Is that going to be worth it? We talked to a couple of OEMs about the social media products and they wanted to do something that was hey, take one post and send it out to everybody. And it's like, that's not what we do. That's not what, that is not.
Scale it, please.
Thank you. Scaling it. And it was just like, no, this is not, I'm just going to leave. You guys have fun in here. Not drinking the Kool-Aid, guys. I'm sorry. So, and that's the hard part, is then you are really handcuffing yourself when it comes to innovation. Especially when things like, Facebook's recent changes, and even Google, with the new update this past month. Can't believe we're already almost at the end of August. But yeah, with Google's most recent update, how does a company that's handcuffed so extreme kind of prepare and update and change for these massive changes that Facebook and Google are putting out? You can't.
No, that's why the decision really should rest at the dealer level. And the idea of these OEM mandated programs helping the dealers who just don't get it, I like the free market. The dealers who just don't get it, who don't go out and seek out the right help, who don't hire good people to run their digital, or hire good companies to help them run their digital, or whatever piece we're talking about, those dealers will go away, and they'll be replaced by great dealers who do a better job, serve their customers better, serve their employees better. I think that when we have these OEM mandated programs, whatever they are, they continue to prop up, the underperformers, and we don't let the market forces take over and just, help those people get out of business, go on, do something else, open a bar, whatever they want to do.
Amen, brother.
Thank you.
You're come back to alcohol.
Well, yeah. It always goes back to alcohol. It's Friday.
Mixology Friday.
That's right. Where's it?
One of the dumbest things that Refresh Friday used to do is everybody had to bring a beer, and best if it was a local beer. And I say one of the dumbest things that they had to do, that Refresh Friday did, was that because my first 2 Refresh Fridays as a guest, I was the only one who brought a beer. The 3 hosts didn't bring beers, so I was this stupid guy. And it was 10 a.m. here in North Idaho, right? So I'm drinking at 10 a.m. on a Friday morning, and I'm the only one. So
get a Bloody Mary, you'd be good.
Yeah.
I'm down. I'm sitting in what they call the Napa Valley of beer up here in Vermont.
Oh yeah.
So there's 2 things we've got going for us. We got syrup and beer. So, yeah, don't go well together.
Hey, one more thing on digital marketing that I do want to hit, and most people know these 2 stories, but I want to relay them again, because just extrapolate these out to an OEM and think about the waste out there. Restoration Hardware found in 2017 that they were bidding on 3,200 keywords, but 98% of their business came from just 22 of those 3,200 keywords. What were those 22 keywords where 98% of their business came from? Restoration Hardware, variations of their own name. And then
how
year,
do you feel about buying your own name?
Let me get there in a minute. Hang on. My post on LinkedIn said something to dipshit companies buying their own names. I don't know. Anyway, it's good play. But anyway, so Procter & Gamble last year cut $200 million from their digital budget and increased their digital reach by 10%. $200 million reduction, and increased their reach because they started spending smarter. Digital is not bad. We should be doing digital, but digital for digital's sake is a waste. We don't have time. Looking at the clock, we don't have time for my take on buying your own name. So save that.
That we should probably make that its own episode, actually. That's such a big topic.
Listen, if you're Atlanta Toyota or San Francisco Toyota, I've said it before, you got to buy your own name. But if you're Steve's Toyota and you're the only Steve's Toyota in the area, forget it. It's a waste. And you can't convince me otherwise. There's only two people who try to tell you to buy your own name: Google and your PPC provider. And both of them have a financial interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do an episode on this. Yep. I'll get back to you on that one, Steve.
All right.
The gears are turning.
All right.
So as we're getting down to the last 5 minutes here, there was something that we did promise at the beginning of the show, and I'm throwing this back at you, Erika.
Okay.
How would you help a dealer or tell a dealer to review his or her website, or mobile website? Sorry.
For mobile. Okay. So first things first is definitely be checking your mobile website, on your site, like on your cell phone. Just check it periodically. You need to be reviewing it. You need to make sure any updates. Don't leave it up to your website provider to make sure your website is running correctly. You always got to be checking that. Secondly is to go through and check what codes have been added to your site. One of the biggest problems we see is inflated codes on the website that just cause your site to load all of these codes and all this fat before you can actually get to the meat of the page. You have about 10.
When you say codes, do you mean plugins?
Plugins or
scripts, tags, things like that?
Why do you need 8 Google Analytics codes on your website? There's a wonderful tool called Google Tag Manager. If you haven't played with it yet, take a look at it. There's a lot of ways to send code right through that. Keeps it really clean, keeps it really simple. That's a really great way to kind of keep your site very, very clean. But review, and that's another great point I think you've talked about before, is that making sure that, old codes are removed from there. If you're not using a vendor anymore and they have a code on your website, clean that off of there. There's no reason for them to be having your data anymore. So that's the second thing, is make sure that your site is running really well. The third thing is get into your webmaster tools and evaluate, what pages are ranking really well, which ones are, if you have any code issues, if there's anything that's, throwing out red flags in webmaster tools, it's saying, hey, this is an issue. Identify those, and those are great ways to send to your website provider. Even if you don't really know what those codes mean, your website provider should be able to identify that and say, oh, that's a JavaScript issue. We'll take care of that. But that's another great way of kind of just looking into the back end tool. And then again, simplify the site. Look at Apple. Apple has a great site. It's very easy, concise to look through. Make sure your mobile website is as clean as possible. I'm going to say that. And then one fun thing that I like to do is I like to have my friends who usually don't go to dealership websites, because I go to sites all the time, so I know how they interact and where to go. Have a family member, have a teenager go through the site and say, hey, can you go to the new cars? Can you find new cars? Because a lot of the times mobile sites are not laid out. The menus are not laid out easy enough for someone who's never, doesn't go to sites all the time like that, to get to the new car inventory, to get to the used car inventory, to find, ways to contact the dealer. So, and again, just take note. If you have 1,000 little things across the top of your screen that say, contact me, get directions, schedule service at the bottom, keep it clean, keep it, you don't need to have chat open 3 different places for mobile. You have such a limited space. Let's make it so it's the most optimized for your store.
And what about looking at things from different mobile platforms? Like, you've got iOS on the Apple devices, on the iPhones, and you've got Android on Google devices. Should you be checking both of those out?
Yeah, definitely. My Google device, I'm a very big Google advocate, especially if you have a site that is an adaptive site that has a mobile platform itself, may render differently for each one. And of course, with the Google phones, there's a few different little nuances, especially like searching things like voice to text. Some of those things can pop up a little bit differently. And especially like the click to call or click to message, make sure if you do have those buttons that you test it out on both an Android versus an Apple, because sometimes those can affect the phone differently. So sometimes it'll automatically call, sometimes it'll put sometimes I've gone through my phone before on client's device, or on my device on client's websites, and it pops it open in a text message for some reason. So there was a coding issue there.
And Mike Phillips has a good point. He says he's a fan of looking from the outside in. So shop yourself like a customer would.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just.
I like Drew's comment as well, and Erika kind of hit it with teenagers. His comment was, oh, now it just scrolled up, darn it. His comment was, how do you do a good mobile review? Take out your phone, go to your website, hand phone to grandma, tell her to try and get info and or buy a car. So
yeah,
that was right along with your teenager comment as well.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
Grandma's a good one. I like Grandma.
You know, there are some technology providers that, you know, buy computers and phones and whatnot for their staff, their engineering staff in particular, who I'm thinking of. And they usually go out and buy one type of thing for everybody. So everybody gets Apple laptops and iPhones, or everybody gets PCs and Androids. And when you do that, sometimes things get missed on the platforms they're not coding for. So that can happen. Anyway.
Yeah. Inventory. Also check your inventory. Make sure that's laying out correctly, because that's one of the biggest issues I've seen is, headers will overlay over top of inventory. That's a big issue, especially with some of these adaptive sites. So yeah, keep that in mind too.
Well, thank you both for everything today. This has actually been a pretty fun show. We've hit on a lot of different things. Maybe some controversial things.
Oh, maybe just a bit. Hey, I did want to, and you know, I keep hyping my book, but I did want to mention, if you buy it in August, $10 per copy goes to Brian and Tamara Armstrong to help Tamara in her fight for her life. If you don't know who Brian or Tamara Armstrong are, look them up on the Facebook, or I don't know, send me a note. I'll tell you who they are and why we're giving $10 from every copy sold in August to them. So I just wanted to mention that.
Well, speaking of Facebook, Erika should have had a sign that says Dealer Authority that she could hold up.
Oh, yeah.
But Facebook or DealerRefresh's Facebook is brought to you by Erika's company, Dealer Authority.
Ooh.
And we thank you all very much for your help there.
You're very welcome.
And ladies, if you could talk to Jeff, talk to Alex, get one DealerRefresh. It's sad that it took this long to get a woman on DealerRefresh, Refresh Friday. I think it's been a great show, and I'm glad I was here for it.
Yeah, Christine, I'm looking at you, by the way.
Yeah, Christine, let's go.
Yeah,
on Refresh Friday.
So anyway, thank you, everybody. And we'll be back next week with Jim Ziegler. So definitely bring a drink for that show.
Yep. Indeed.
We will be.
Thanks,
See you later.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.